On our next Tiger Minor League Report breakdown, we break down right-hander Bo Briskey, as he was a 27th round pick in 2019 out of Colorado State Pueblo University. And Chris, we've talked about this numerous times on the Tiger Radio podcast and the Tiger Minor League Report podcast, that the Tigers have had a hard time developing anything past the 10th. I mean, let's be serious here in terms of pitching, anything past the 10th round. And Bo Briskey was the Tiger Minor League player last year.
Yeah, he ended up being their pitcher of the year. He had great stats and moved from low or high A, actually, high A West Michigan up to double A Erie for a few starts at the end of the year. It was just, it's worth taking a look at to see what he had going for him and why, he's considered one of like the top 15 prospects in the system now. It's a great developmental story. So we're going to start the video and get a good look early on. I think this, you said, is from his first outing of the year against Wisconsin.
It was one of his first starts of the year.
So, like one of the first things we want to notice, keep an eye on fastball command here, where the glove is and where the ball ends up. Now that one wasn't necessarily good because the glove was down, but I think right here you'll see, look where the glove is. Now check out where the fastball ends up. Pretty close. That's pretty darn good command. The other thing though, we do see, and this is kind of consistent, his breaking ball is kind of short and doesn't break a ton. And that one was okay, but that's not, it's not a big bender or a hard slider. And then we see some fastballs up. And that one wasn't quite up enough, but that definitely is a pattern you'll notice with Briskey this year. He throws fastballs up, and that's where he gets a lot of outs.
And what I noticed here with his secondary pitches, early on in the season, you could tell that it's not really part of his repertoire. He's going fastball, and he kind of puts where the fastball where he wants it. Right there was a changeup. It looked like he had 80 miles per hour. But early on, you could tell just kind of figuring out what he could throw. There was another off-speed pitch there. Another change, yeah. And his change does have some downward movement to it. There's that fastball back there.
I think we get two straight fastballs up here that are pretty good. If my timestamps were correct. I think
oh, there it is. Yeah.
Right by, it's only 92, but it's right up there. And yeah, and then you mentioned the changeup. His changeup is probably his best secondary pitch. And there are a couple times where they look just nasty. And I don't know if we see him right here yet. This might be another high fastball. Oh, no, that's the breaking ball. And it looks a little short again, doesn't it? It doesn't have a whole lot of snap to it.
Yeah, especially because there you go, right there. Just went back to it.
That's the change. Yeah, the change, right?
Yeah, that's the change. And it was fastball, primarily fastball change, and fastball or change up right there. That's the same pitch that we just talked about. So change up away, some downward action to it, right so there.
That's his very rare curveball that you see. It was loopy. It's 74 miles an hour. I think 72. That's too slow for a curveball. I mean, you could try to fool guys with, and look at that guy go. Former Ole Miss, but yeah, he crushed it. It's just too loopy and easy spot out of the hand. So.
And there he is locating the fastball inside there, Chris. And that's part of his good. He does have good command of that.
I think we'll see another nice fastball up here. Yeah, like so that's the thing. Yeah, he can command the fastball, and it's got good spin characteristics, so he can get swings and misses up. But if he leaves it down low, it's not so great.
That was 3 straight fastballs in the same area too with Garcia. Yeah. So now we go to May 26th, home start here against Lake County,
and then. All right, we get a ground ball. I think the first pitch we want to notice here is the next one, which is going to be a really nice changeup, I believe, and then a nice fastball that plays off of it.
Oh, that's a fastball. Right
there, that's a fastball, all right. He wanted to look at us for a bit.
Let's see here.
That's a fastball again.
This is where I think against this game against Lake County, it was permanently 2 or 3 pitches top. There it is. That's a changeup down and away that he can get guys on swing on. And there's the fastball. And this is a game where I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just saying, they work well together. But that breaking ball again. He just didn't have feel for it early in the year, at least. I think it got better over the course of the season, but I still don't think it's quite an average pitch for him. But really, we noticed in this that the fastball does get hit more, not necessarily, but batters make more contact when he keeps it low in the zone.
And that was that change right there. You could tell based off that location, it's just guys were sitting for fastball.
His changeup was too good for hitters at this level, and you'll see a couple swings that'll be proof of that soon. And it's He maintains the arm speed. There's good separation. It's like 10, 12 miles an hour separation. I think that may have been a changeup that he left up inside, but it's hard to tell. But you're going to see some ugly looking swings in the change soon. That's a heater.
And what the thing about the fastball too is when I notice when he does that, there's a change is when he does a good job of changing the eye level, which in the high A, for example, if you could do that and have some deception to it, that's really what you need. But it's until you get to double A, which we'll get to here shortly, that's where you're going to need that third pitch to come in.
Yeah, and so that pitch we just saw was a fastball down the middle, and it got hit kind of hard, but fortunately it was right at somebody. I think he gets a good amount of deception too, because he pitches from like the middle of the rubber in the ball. It's kind of a short arm delivery, I would say. Like he doesn't extend his arm very much. And I think it just kind of comes right out of the middle of his chest and gets on guys faster than they expect.
And this is a game too. This was a string of, I believe it was 18 innings where he did not allow a walk at all to start the season.
He's definitely got above average control, and I would say there's that changeup, just way too much. I would say at least average command on the changeup and fastball.
So you see that right there. That was a curve that get me over curve that really didn't do much, but got
that
the strike.
A little bit harder than, so that was like 84. That was a little bit harder than the ones we were seeing earlier. So I don't know if he developed more of a cutter or if he's just looser arm or maybe a different radar gun, but. There you see a changeup that he put up or left up, but
and in the double A too, it's like we were mentioning earlier, just how the difference is right here. As on lefties there, or on lefties, he can locate that fastball low and away, go with the change low and away. But I'm trying to see if he comes back inside here. It looks like was that a curve, Chris? It looked like a curve to me.
Yeah, that was just his little slider, I think. It's kind of more vertical than horizontal movement.
It did look like it had more movement than we saw earlier in the season.
Yeah, and there's that messy change. Still working at double A. Where I had pointed out a couple points in this. Maybe we passed it, but examples of him, hitting the glove pretty well.
Here's another one right here.
Yeah, I mean that's good command. He put it exactly where he wanted to. And hitters aren't going to do anything with that where he put it. That one is a miss. So it happens.
It's really with the changeup where I think the fastball. I think fastball location for him is money, and the changeup comes and here it goes. But the sweeping action it gets.
And we just saw just now he threw the fastball and the changeup in the exact same spot, 2 pitches back to back. One was 93, one was 82, and all the hitter could do was foul it off. It was well done. But you see, he's getting some nice tailing action with the fastball up.
Now you're waiting for him to see that he's going to throw that short curve. I would consider that a short curve. And he go.
It comes with the fastball inside. Do you go change up away here? Yes, you do. And that gets the strikeout with perfect pitch. Good movement on that. You see the arm side run on the change up, the really nice fade. It does seem to have a lot of horizontal movement on it. And the very best ones will also drop too. But he seems to be really comfortable with that command in changing the change up a little bit, to get more vertical or horizontal movement when he needs to. So, yeah, the sum of the parts I think are pretty interesting. We discussed, the fastball is fine. It's just not like elite velocity, but he was touching 96 here in spring training.
Yeah. So there's a velocity bump for sure because we saw him top at 94.
Yeah, he was not even that. He was sitting like 95, wasn't he? I think that's what we saw. Yeah. So that could be a game changer for him. You're sitting in the mid 90s and touching 96, 97 with that changeup at the same speed is going to be, dastardly. The main concerns I have for him, again, are that breaking ball. I don't know if it's going to be a weapon for him ever or really even average for him, in which case he may have a hard time getting through lineups a second and third time against big league hitters if you only really have 2 options to get him out. Time will tell. I mean, it was a heck of a development last year just to see him come from nowhere to being a legitimate prospect. So when that happens, you go, well, maybe that guy can take another leap. If he moved that quickly in 1 year, who knows what can happen? Maybe he's shown the aptitude to get better. And I think, I I think the floor here is probably a middle reliever who throws in the mid 90s with a good changeup. And like I compared him like Buck Farmer. There's, I think, a Buck Farmer floor here. And I think the ceiling could be a number 5, number 4 starter if he continues to develop a little bit. So I don't know. That's what I saw.
And what I saw is, and this is something that I noticed, is that he has to get that third pitch down, because if you notice on his curveball, like I said, didn't really snap, and it was kind of loopy up there. And apparently he also throws a slider too, which if we did see, when you think about a slider, it has the east-west movement, but I didn't really see a ton of that I think it was the first game we were watching where I didn't see the slider have that kind of command of it yet. And there was a really good thing that I put in here. One of the things that Brandon Day said on Bless You Boys, and this is the whole thing about him, he has a very efficient, balanced delivery. If you notice, his mechanics are always consistent. And even when we saw him late in Lakeland this year, it was kind of the same efficiency to it. He can really, his follow throughs doesn't really fall off. And that's key. And what I also like about his ability is that he does, or my concern is whether or not he can go 7 or 8 innings too, because there was a stretch of time, and maybe they just did this on purpose for developmental reasons, but the most innings he worked last season was in one game, was 7 innings, and that was on July 15th against Fort Wayne when he was at West Michigan. So does he have the longevity to be a starter and go deep in the games? We shall see. But again, it could be also a case too that he had an injury in college, correct?
Yeah, I think he had Tommy John surgery early on in college, because he was also an outfielder, and he was really kind of more of a two-way player, and then became more of a pitcher in college. I think he also grew. It was, it's one of those late developmental stories. One thing I'm going to check real quick is I wonder, how many pitches he threw in a game. Like if they were, because, teams generally don't even let you throw 100 pitches anymore, especially in the minors.
Right.
So, and they don't have that anywhere. So they didn't keep track of that for us to let us know. So best we can say is that, he I don't know, like I didn't view him as a guy who was terribly inefficient with his pitches, walking a ton of guys. Like you said, I don't remember what his final numbers were. It was like 120 strikeouts against 20 walks, something in that range.
Yeah, so his final line on the season between West Michigan and Erie goes like this. He was 9-4 with the ERA of 3.12 and 21 starts. He threw one complete game, which was probably one of those shortened games. Mm-hmm. He had 116 strikeouts over 106 innings and just 23 walks.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
7 home runs. So he's also keeping it out of the, from going over the fence. So there's a lot to like there. We had some internal discussions about where he might start this year. I thought they might send him back to Erie. I think he's probably ready for Toledo. I think what he had 4 starts in Erie. He looked really good, and that was the thing that stood out to me, Chris. 8 starts in Erie. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's probably enough. He got better when he went to Erie, so which is traditionally, the Eastern League, which was a league whose name was so dumb, which shall never be mentioned again. Last year is back to the Eastern League. Yeah. So we call that instead of the Class AA
Northeast Southwest.
Northeast Southwest Division, I think it was. Yeah. In any event, 8 starts there, pitched better than he did in High A. I'm saying, he's probably ready for AAA.
And by the way, if you want to know how many pitches he threw in Erie, he threw 684 and just in 44 innings of work.
So it's about like 82 a game.
I'm not good at math. You are the more efficient one with math. And then he threw 1,000 pitches in 62 innings of work.
85 points per game.
Okay. So for West Michigan, would that be
how many pitches you say?
1,000 over 62.2 innings of work.
Exactly 1,000?
Exactly 1,000.
By 62 points.
Beep, bobble, beep.
Well, how many starts?
That would go over 13 starts.
Okay. That's what so he was averaging 77 pitches per start in West Michigan and 85 in Erie. So I don't think that was necessarily like, hey, he's being pitch inefficient. It's like, hey, we also have these bullpen guys we got to get some work to, and Yeah. So Yeah. What you talked about, like he's balanced. He throws strikes. Those are huge ingredients. He doesn't have like a giant head whack. He doesn't fall off the mound. There are a lot of starterish traits there, and he's got 2 starter quality pitches. It's just a matter of finding that consistent third pitch, I think, to really unlock potential mid rotation starter. And even without like a quality third pitch, he could possibly still be a number 5 starter. Pitch 5 innings for you every 5 days. Sure, with his stuff, that's fine, and that would be a great value.
Definitely. And you look at the depth right now across the system, and this will end with, we look at the fact that, Franklin Perez, you don't know where he's going to start at, and he's still miles away before even becoming anything of value in terms of a contributor. Then you have Wentz, you have Olsen, and Olsen to me does have some reliever risk to him. And we've talked about this internally too, about Reese Olsen, but I think what I like about Olsen is that he has some live movement to his pitches, and he has the same kind of problem with Briskey. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but in terms of a good he does have a good secondary pitch with I think it's his curveball or slider that's got some good movement on it, but he also too has not had a lot of innings, and he's been kind of limited to 5 or 6 innings here and there. It could be by design, and that's perfectly fine. Olsen also has some reliever risk too.
Yeah, to me, his reliever risk. It's funny. He has, I'd say, he has 4 legitimate average to plus pitches. His fastball is in 92 to 94 range. It's all the way up to 96 at times. The slider and the changeup both flash plus pitches, and the curve is also an above average offering. He just has his size. I think he's on about 6 feet, 180 pounds, and his delivery. His delivery is really kind of funky and unusual, and feels like something that might not be sustainable for a starter's workload. So he's the one. He's kind of the opposite of Briskey. Actually, I think he has the better arsenal, but to me, it's just tough to see him consistently throwing good strikes with his delivery. But I could see him being kind of an Alex Lang sort of weapon out of the bullpen, a guy whose velocity jumps up a mile or two, and he's got all sorts of pitches he can use at any time. He just needs to throw enough strikes with them, and not necessarily have the above average command that you might need as a starter.
No, and I agree with that. And one of the things that I remember about Olsen, we'll probably end up doing something on Olsen too, probably in the first week of the season here, is that we were kind of surprised on why the Brewers gave him up so easily, because that first start, we were there for that first start at West Michigan, and he was able to command the inside part of the strike zone pretty well. And that was something that we don't see a lot of I think one of the things in the organization I'm not sure about you, Chris, but the fact that we've seen more pitchers, it could be just me, but I saw a lot of pitchers last year try to go inside more often than just do nibble on the outside corner. Yeah,
you know what? With Olsen, I don't remember the exact stats. I want to say he only gave up 2 hits, maybe 3 in 5 innings that start we saw, with like 5 or 6 strikeouts. But what sticks out to me from that outing is he kept getting ground balls to the left side and fly balls to right field. So he was keeping hitters off balance. They were pulling soft stuff and late on the fastball. And, that speaks to me, part of that is the catcher calling the right pitches, or possibly Brian Pena from the dugout. But also it speaks to the unpredictability of his stuff and the ability to throw it when he needed to. So yeah, there's a lot. Again, he's a guy that if things break right, there's a lot to like there as a starter. I worry about the operation.
Yeah, and that's where you have to kind of see what he does in a full year at Erie. So if he's doing this in July, he's pitching very well, and he's getting 5 or 6 innings per start and keeping the ball down, then you can say, okay, maybe he can be a 4th or 5th guy in that rotation down the line. But right now, I put him more on the bottom end of that, of a possibility of a call-up versus Briskey, or even Garrett Hill, that's another guy we should definitely talk about too. And he hasn't been talked about enough, but Briskey's the one we're focused on this evening. So please subscribe to the Tiger Minor Report channel. Click and subscribe. Takes you 2 seconds. We appreciate it. We're trying to get 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2022. Pass on the word. Let us know what you think. Any feedback, comments. If there's a certain player you want, let us know. We look forward to another player breakdown. If you have any suggestions, just let us know, and we'll talk to you again soon.